When I first came to the US for my master's, I thought my degree alone would get me a great job. My biggest misconception ever. Even though I had good grades, I had worked in the Fortune 500 companies, I had US internships experience, but I still got zero interviews while my classmates were already getting job offers and they were already celebrating. That's when I realized that getting a job in the US, it's not about how smart you are or how perfect your resume is. It's more about how you connect, how you communicate, and how you actually position yourself. So today, in just 5 minutes, I'll share the top 3 lessons that I learned that completely changed how I view career success, and lessons every international student and immigrant moving abroad should know. So here's lesson number 1, how Americans actually hire you. Here's something they never tell you in school. Americans hire personality first and then skills. So in my first networking event, I'm talking to strangers there, delivering my, perfect elevator pitch that I've practiced for so many hours in front of the mirror, full of data, my metrics, my achievements, and the recruiters are smiling at me and they're handing me their cards, but none of them actually ever got back to me. So I knew definitely something was way off, and this strategy would not work. So I started talking to my career coaches and my peers to kind of understand what the US culture is and how actually Americans hire. And I realized that people actually hire people they can see themselves having coffee with. And that was a light bulb moment, because that's when I just stopped talking about my resume and I started to make connections like I was talking to another human. And that was definitely very hard for me because I didn't know how to do it. But that is the only thing that actually worked when I started talking to people like people instead of looking at them as my lottery ticket to a US job. So instead of saying that I optimized the process by 23%, I started saying that it is really frustrating to see how my team was working late at night, and so I built a system that actually saved everybody 6 hours a week. It was the same kind of story, but it had more like initiative, teamwork, and empathy. If I have to take one thing from this video, I would say pick that one achievement from your resume and reframe it like a story that kind of shows your values and not just the KPIs and the metrics you achieved. And that will make a difference. Lesson number 2 is understanding networking and the way it actually works. So I used to think that networking is just like randomly messaging 200 people on LinkedIn and asking for referrals. No, that's not how it works. The shift happened when I stopped asking, hey, how can you help me? Hey, I see we have a mutual connection, and I see, you're working in my dream company. Is there any way you can help me get a job there? People are very nice here, so they would actually sometimes reply, but it's not the right way to message people. Instead, we should ask that how can I help them? That should be the attitude. So for example, I met an alum who was a startup founder, and they were really struggling to understand the marketing in Asia. Because I had worked in that space before, I started creating a small deck with my insight based on whatever information I had about the company and shared it with them. There was no instant response, of course, but I did continue to keep in touch and follow up, and 2 months later, guess what? Who got an internship call from them? Luckily, I had already accepted the position somewhere else, so I did not end up joining, but networking is actually not a numbers game. It is, if you create even 2 to 5 valuable relationships, if it's with your peers or just the companies that you're interested in, people there working over there, just build relationships that has some value to you and them. So if you're just starting out school, I would say 70% of your time build relationships with your classmates, with your professors. 20% I would say do it with your recent graduates and also with people who can mentor you from the same university. And 10% I would say go all out, find people in the companies that you're interested in. Just focus on the learning part. Honestly, the offers will come through. It's not an overnight thing, but you have to start preparing ahead for this to work out. Lesson number 3, sometimes the immigrants always think that we don't have any advantage, but we have the biggest advantage, which is the international advantage. So don't be afraid to mention that you are here to learn XYZ things. That's why you decided to pick up this school, or that's why you decided to apply to this company. This is what I've learned back home in the companies that I've worked for, and I want to see the other side of the business at a global level. That's where I see myself thriving. Just share your honest story, and that is what will become your advantage. For a long time, I avoided mentioning, that I was an international student, even though it was so obvious. That was just really silly of me. I thought it'll make things complicated, but it makes it actually easier when you're just upfront about everything from the very beginning. So in interviews, when I actually started saying, that I have actually seen business from both sides, which is so true. I've worked in India for American companies. I have worked in the US with American and the global market now. I can confidently say, that I know how American companies think and how emerging markets work. And this single shift in you will actually make employers see you not as a visa risk, but more as a global bridge to something they can truly find valuable. Because now you will be bringing that cultural intelligence, adaptability, resilience, which we all have because we've, struggled so much to come here and maintaining our status, which is not easy, but it shows that how resilient we are and how ambitious we all are. This is not something that a school can actually teach you. This is something that we have actually fostered through the choices that we have made. So in simple words, here is the truth. Getting hired in the US, it's not about luck, it's strategy. It is definitely about strategy, storytelling and connection. You can definitely nail it if you just plan ahead and follow some of the things that I mentioned. If you are studying in the US or planning your move, remember this, that you don't need to fit in, you just need to learn how to translate what you actually already have. So drop in the comments with what lessons you're working on next, and if you want a free checklist to help you reframe your resume, find it in the link below. And good luck to you all. I'm sure you've got this.